What's good, everybody on YouTube? This is your boy Akil McLeod, and I'm a full-time eBay and Poshmark seller. And in today's video, I want to share 10 menswear brands that don't sell for good money on eBay or on Poshmark. Now, I already made a video similar to this in the past. Some people agreed, some people disagreed, but overall I do think these type of videos are very helpful because it helps new and existing eBay and Poshmark sellers just overall source better and source smarter without wasting any money or wasting any time. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first brand on my list is the brand Penguin. Now, Penguin is a decent brand in my opinion. I kind of like their polos and their shirts, and they even sell shoes and pants as well. But overall, it's one of those brands that have a high retail price, but it just doesn't translate online. Now, if you guys see any of their polos or any of their shoes, I suggest that you pass on it. However, if it is brand new with tags, you might be able to get about 20 to 25 bucks for it. But that's only if it's brand new with tags, and that's if you're willing to wait at least 2 to 3 months for it to sell. Because trust me, I bought a couple Penguin shirts in the past that were brand new with the tags, and they took at least 3 to 4 months to sell. So that's why I'm giving you guys this advice, just so you guys can save some money and save some time. Next brand on my list is Cutter & Buck. Now, I tend to see this a lot in my thrift stores, and it's usually just a bunch of plaid shirts that I see, and the overall quality seems to be good, and their tag kind of looks like an expensive tag. So when I first checked it out, I definitely looked it up and I checked the comps. But the comps, especially when it comes to pre-owned, they're definitely all over the place. I've seen some sell fairly decent for about 25, and then I've seen others sell as low as 5 bucks. So if you guys see Cutter & Buck in your thrift stores, whether it's a shirt or maybe even it's a pair of pants, unless it's brand new with the tags, again, I suggest that you pass on it. And like I said, even if it is brand new with the tags, chances of you selling it quickly is very, very slim. Next up on my list is 7 Diamonds. Now, this brand, I've only sold it a couple times, and both times it took a very long time for it to sell. Now, for me, I'm one of those stubborn kind of sellers. Sometimes I might just try to use my best judgment, and if I think a shirt looks really good, I'll just try to sell it anyway, even though the brand isn't that strong. And both times I learned the hard way that that brand just does not sell for good money. Now, the first time I tried to sell the brand, I've had that shirt for at least 6 months, and the second time I found a similar shirt that was even brand new with the tags, and in my opinion it was a fairly dope shirt, but that took even longer to sell, and I just have no clue why. I'm just thinking the brand is either oversaturated or it's just not popular. So if you guys see 7 Diamonds, definitely stay away from it. Next up is Izod. Now, Izod used to be a fairly decent brand, especially back in the day. I still tend to see some of their vintage cardigans and things like that. And those pieces might be a little better for you guys to pick up and sell, especially since vintage is so hot right now. But overall, when it comes to modern Izod, I always pass on it because it's always a ton of it online, especially used, and it just does not sell for good money. And in my opinion, if I buy a shirt for about 5 bucks and I could sell it for anywhere between 20 and 25, for the most part, it's definitely still worth my time because that's still some decent profit. But Izod shirts, I usually see them sell for about 10 bucks. So unless you're sourcing it from a Goodwill outlet and you're getting it for like 15 cents or 25 cents a shirt, I suggest you pass on that as well. Next up is Club Room. Now, Club Room is a brand that's usually sold in Macy's, and I think that's the only place that it actually is sold. So I tend to find a lot of it in my thrift stores, but it's another brand similar to Izod that just does not sell. And usually, even if it is brand new with the tags, that really doesn't help it sell any better, because I've seen Club Room pieces brand new with the tags sell for less than 10 bucks. So if you guys see anything Club Room, I suggest you pass on it. However, if you do see any Club Room blazers that might be made from camel hair or cashmere, you should probably pick that up, because those are fabrics that people, they usually don't care about the brand. They're really just looking for the fabric. So that might be something you could put into your keywords and include cashmere, and that might help sell it faster. But definitely don't expect a ton of money from that brand, because like I said, it's just not a strong brand and it takes a very long time to sell. Next up is American Rag. Now, I've had several American Rag pieces brand new with the tags, and even those definitely took a very long time to sell. I even had a pair of cargo pants that were brand new with the tags, and I purchased them from a flea market for about $2 or $3. So I didn't have a lot of money invested in it, but it took so long to sell that I actually ended up flipping it at a Buffalo exchange, and I used it as trade-in so I could try to get rid of some of my stale inventory because I had those pants for at least 6 months. So when it comes to American Rag, I usually pass on it, but just like everything else, it does have a caveat to it. So if it's brand new with the tags and if it's made from a really good fabric, which American Rag usually doesn't do that, I would suggest pick it up. But for the most part, I usually just always pass on American Rag. Next up on my list is Kirkland Signature, and if you guys aren't familiar with the Kirkland Signature brand, that's just a brand that's sold through Costco, so obviously it's not worth a ton of money, but they do tend to make a lot of clothing that has a Made in Italy stamp on it. So a lot of people might see Made in Italy and they'll try to grab that up and try to flip it on eBay or on Poshmark, but trust me, Kirkland Signature, chances are it probably isn't even really made in Italy. I mean, I wouldn't bet any money on it, but it definitely doesn't have a high resale value on eBay or on Poshmark, so I would definitely pass on anything Kirkland Signature. And for the most part, I tend to see Kirkland Signature blazers and dress pants and dress shirts. But like I said, I never pick it up because it usually sells for about $9 to $10, even if it's brand new with the tags. Next up is the brand Van Heusen, and Van Heusen is a decent brand in my opinion. The quality isn't great, but it's also sold in stores like Macy's and things like that. So you definitely will see it in your thrift store since it is kind of like a lower end brand. But for the most part, just like I mentioned with brands like Izod, unless it comes from a really good fabric, whether it's something like 100% wool or it's cashmere, I would suggest passing on it. But they also make suits, and they started to make their clothing fit a lot better. So if you can get a Van Heusen suit that is fairly modern for a decent price, anything less than $10 or maybe 15, I might suggest you picking that up because you might be able to flip it for a good profit. But for the most part, Van Heusen, I never pick it up because it's something that's going to sit for a long time and the overall resale value just isn't there. There's a streetwear brand called the Hundreds. Now, I used to wear the Hundreds back when I was in high school and in college, so I definitely am familiar with the brand. But just like other streetwear brands, the Hundreds lost its luster a few years ago, so it's definitely not as popular as it used to be, and the resale value just isn't there. However, just like some of these other brands that I mentioned, there is a caveat to it. If you do see anything that is the Hundreds, but it has any type of Disney characters on it, if it's like a Hundreds and Disney collaboration, definitely pick that up because those always sell for good money. But if you see like a Hundreds graphic t-shirt or a Hundreds plaid shirt or a pair of pants, I suggest you pass on it because it usually sells somewhere between 10 and $15. And unless you're getting it from a Goodwill outlet where you're only spending a few cents for it, it's definitely not worth your time. And last but certainly not least, it's two brands in one, and these are Target brands, and this is the brand Goodfellow and Original Use. Now for me, I don't have a Target in my immediate area, so the first time I saw Goodfellow, I thought it was actually a decent brand because the fit is really good and the quality overall, to me, is really good. It's definitely something that I would rock. But because it's coming from Target, there's tons of it out there, and usually Target tends to donate a lot of their clothing that just has not moved. They would donate it to Goodwills across the country. So not only are you actually competing with Target to sell the Goodfellow brand, but you're also competing with other resellers that might get Goodfellow and Original Use brands directly from the thrift store for pennies on the dollar, and they're also trying to resell it. And another thing to consider is the fact that Target is actually stopping resellers from selling Goodfellow and Original Use and some of their other in-store brands because they're trying to make sure that other resellers aren't making money from Target brands. Now, if you guys sell anything on eBay, I'm sure you're familiar with Vero, and Target definitely goes through the Vero system and tries to attack any sellers that are selling their Target brand. So, of course, just like anything else, you can definitely take a chance on it and try to sell it in your eBay store, and you might get away with it. But if you're selling a lot of it at one time, that could definitely be a red flag to Vero and eBay, and they can definitely flag you, and you could possibly get suspended from eBay. So just to be safe, I suggest that you guys stay away from trying to resell any brands from Target, such as Goodfellow, Original Use, and even some of the women's brands like Ava and Viv. So that's all I have for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed that one, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos. And if you disagree with any of the brands that I mentioned, go ahead and drop that in the comment section and we could keep the conversation going. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.